Welcome to This Explainer. I'm your host, and today we're diving into the dazzling, but honestly incredibly dark history of what is easily the most priceless and arguably the most dangerous diamond in human history. We're going to trace this wild path of unimaginable wealth, unstoppable empires, and a literal ancient curse. Yep, we're talking about the infamous Kohinoor. Now, to really wrap our heads around what we're dealing with here, we need to understand just how insanely valuable this stone actually is. Get this. The Mughal Emperor Babur wrote in his autobiography that the value of this single diamond could feed the entire world's population for a single day. Just let that sink in for a second. We're talking about stakes and an allure so staggering that it completely defies any normal price tag. It wasn't just a shiny jewel, it was the ultimate symbol of supreme, unmatched power.
Okay, let's jump right into part 1, Origins and a Dark Prophecy.
To find the root of all this madness, we have to rewind the clock about 700 years back to the Kakatiya dynasty in southern India. Picture the sheer shock of those miners in Golconda. They pull this colossal, blindingly bright stone right out of the earth. In its rough, uncut state, it weighed a massive 700 carats. I mean, it was unlike anything anyone had ever seen, giving off this terrifyingly brilliant inner light. Now, the Kakatiya king, he was absolutely awestruck at first, but before sticking it into a crown, he brought in his wisest astrologers to examine it. And what they told him? Well, it changed everything. He was so terrified by their reading that he actually ordered this world-altering treasure to be completely locked away and hidden inside a temple. So what did they say? The exact prophecy those astrologers delivered was a totally dire warning. They said, whoever holds it will rule the world, but their end will be inescapable ruin. They were basically warning that it didn't matter how rich or powerful you became, this stone came with a fatal catch. Claiming the diamond meant signing a literal death sentence for yourself and your entire kingdom. Which brings us to part 2, Blood Reign of the Empires. So the king hid the stone, but, a secret that bright, it just can't stay buried forever. And when it came out, this diamond didn't just casually pass from hand to hand, it practically bulldozed its way through human history. It surfaces in the 14th century with the Khilji dynasty, moves on to the mighty Mongols in the 16th century, gets violently seized by the Persians, then the Afghans in the 18th century, before finally being claimed by the British in the 19th century. Every single one of these empires was the absolute greatest superpower of its day, and every single one of them was toppled after claiming that stone. Let's look at the Khilji dynasty as a prime example here. Alauddin Khilji was this remarkably successful, incredibly powerful ruler. But then his military commander looted that exact Kakatiya temple and brought the 700-carat diamond back to Delhi. And almost immediately, Khilji's life totally unraveled. This great conqueror just succumbed to extreme, crippling paranoia. He stopped trusting everyone around him, systematically murdering his closest allies and friends. Ultimately, he literally lost his mind and died of this agonizing, mysterious disease. The curse was very much awake. And here is where we see the tragic, almost poetic irony of the stone. Fast forward a few generations, and the diamond falls to the Mughal Emperor Shah Jahan. You probably know him as the man who built the Taj Mahal, but what did he get for owning the diamond? He was completely overthrown and imprisoned by his own son, Aurangzeb. Locked away in a tiny cell for the rest of his life, his very last dying request was just to look out at the Taj Mahal. But he couldn't even see it directly. He could only view the reflection of his beloved monument through the facets of the cursed diamond he held in his hands. Eventually, the Persian Empire invades, shattering the Mongols and stealing the diamond. When it finally arrived in Persia, the queen laid eyes on it and was just completely mesmerized by its intense, piercing brilliance. She actually gasped and called it kohinoor, which is a Persian phrase meaning mountain of light. And that iconic, kind of terrifying name, it's stuck with it ever since. Moving on to part 3, A Perilous Journey to England. For even more wars, the Mountain of Light fell to the Afghans, and then eventually to the king of Punjab, Duleep Singh. But as the 19th century dawned, the British East India Company consolidated its grip and defeated Duleep Singh. Queen Victoria demanded the ultimate prize be brought back to England. But the local people in India, they were terrified to even move it. They knew all about the curse. The British forced a crew onto a ship anyway, and the voyage was an absolute nightmare. A severe outbreak of disease, including cholera and dysentery, just swept through the ship. Brutal, unprecedented ocean storms battered the hull relentlessly. The mortality rate aboard was horrific. For the surviving crew, there was absolutely no doubt in their minds that ancient curse was real, and it was violently resisting being captured. Well, despite the horrors, the diamond did arrive in London. But here is a truly shocking fact. You remember that massive 700-carat stone we talked about? Queen Victoria actually found the ancient raw cut to be a little too dull for British royal tastes, so she aggressively ordered it to be recut. In doing so, the massive mountain of light was whittled all the way down to a mere 100 carats. Now for part 4, the royal loophole for queens. So cutting the stone didn't cut the curse. Soon after she got it, whispers of the diamond's dark history started to really terrify the British court. To settle things, Queen Victoria ordered a full investigation, and what her scholars actually found in those ancient Kakatiya texts is absolutely fascinating. They discovered a huge twist, a literal loophole in the prophecy. The curse was entirely gendered. For male rulers, the diamond guaranteed madness, disease, and the absolute destruction of their kingdom. But for female rulers, the text promised they would remain completely unharmed, their dynasty would endure, and they'd achieve global conquest. Basically, the curse destroys kings, but it empowers queens to rule the world. And the really crucial point here is how Queen Victoria reacted to that news. Armed with this ancient loophole, she issued a strict, totally non-negotiable decree. Only women of the British royal family may ever wear the kohinoor. No male heir was permitted to touch it or have it set in his crown, ever. This single strategic rule is credited by a lot of historians as the real reason the British monarchy avoided the gruesome fate of the Mughals and the Khiljis, allowing them to survive and expand into a century of unprecedented global empire building. Fast forward to today, and that royal rule remains completely unbroken. The kohinoor was worn safely by Queen Elizabeth II right up until her passing in 2022. And when King Charles III ascended the throne, well, the diamond was deliberately and very carefully excluded from his coronation entirely. Think about that. An ancient warning from 700 years ago is literally still dictating British royal protocol today. Finally, part 5. Who owns the light? The story absolutely does not end with ancient prophecies and royal decrees. Stepping into modern geopolitics, the kohinoor is currently at the center of a massive ongoing debate. Today, the Mountain of Light is locked securely inside the Tower of London. But multiple sovereign nations are passionately demanding its return. India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Afghanistan all lay claim to the diamond, asserting that it's deeply tied to their geographical history and their cultural heritage. Let's take an impartial look at the two primary arguments here. On one side, the British claim that the diamond was a legally obtained gift, surrendered by the King of Punjab, Duleep Singh, through a formal, documented treaty. But on the exact opposite side, the Indian government and others argue that it's a priceless cultural treasure, one that was forcibly looted and extorted from a conquered nation by an occupying colonial power. The legacy of the 700-year-old stone is honestly as dazzling and complex as the diamond itself. It is a story of blinding beauty, unimaginable power, and what really looks like an inescapable curse. So we're going to leave you with this thought to ponder. Does the kohinoor rightfully belong in the Tower of London, or is it finally time for the Mountain of Light to return home? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning the history behind the world's greatest treasures.